Greetings YouTube, Kevlar Chicken here, coming in with another review. Finally, it's time to do this particular one, which I've actually been waiting for quite a while myself, so I'm really excited. I'll try to keep it short because I will, if the need arises, I will just make a second video giving more detailed information on this item, but it's something that's always been sitting in my background, and without further ado, so as you can see, hopefully it's a bit far away for right now, but I'll bring it closer in just a second. It's a 1045, I don't know if you can technically call it high carbon, but high carbon steel Katana by Master Cutlery, a US company. Now, before I get into the details and what I think about it, let me just bring it closer so you can see it. Now I know that it's not in frame, so just let me give me a second. And I will show you the blade in just a moment, don't worry. Okay, so now with this out of the way, the visuals out of the way, I mean, let's talk about a bit about the Katana. Now this one in particular I have had for 8 years, and for those of you who have a keener eye, you probably noticed that it's very bent. This is because 1045 is pretty soft, and then when you do a bad cut it tends to bend, and this has been bent, I'm not kidding, over 100 times, but it did not break, which is very good for a low-end sword because you can just bend it back and keep practicing. Now usually what I practiced on are water bottles, but because my stand is just a bunch of bricks stacked on top of each other, I did miss a few times and hit the bricks, which usually have a little wood under it, and my stand is not the best, so I can't really swing that properly. But you can actually use this and it will not break. It's not a wall hanger. Now you saw how it comes. It has a saya or scabbard, and some painted cherry flower motifs, I believe. It actually, never mind, it's it has some leaves painted on there. get the point. Now, this is actually a US made product from a company named Master Cutlery. It's 1045 high carbon steel, and the main characteristics are the length of the blade itself, I believe, is 28 inches. I could be about an inch off, so don't quote me on that. But in centimeters, I'm pretty sure it's 72.4 because I bought this in my country, which is Bulgaria, and we work with the metric unit system, so that's more speaks more to me than inches, but I will do my best to cover both systems because a lot of my viewers will be from the US. Now, overall length is 40.5 inches or 103.9 centimeters. So for those of you who are wondering, I'm approximately 5'9", and this, which is 175 centimeters, and this is 103. And as you can see, this is pretty much made to be used with two hand, and it is technically a two-handed sword, but you can swing it with one hand, you just don't have much control over it. Oh yeah, the weight, excuse me, I should have mentioned the weight. The weight is 2.86 pounds, which is rather heavy for swords, believe it or not, especially ones that are not that long. Like 40.5 inches is not that long for a two-handed sword, or 1.3 kilograms. Remember, this is meant to be a very nimble weapon. You can't judge the weight by the weight you lift at the gym. You're not supposed to do like 10 reps with this and be winded. You're supposed to take this alongside your other stuff and be able to swing it as many times as you could in a life or death situation without getting tired. So 1.3 kilos is still a pretty hefty weight, especially considering you're grabbing it at one end and you need to control the other as best as you can. But you can find sword channels talk about this more, but yeah, I'm not gonna go too much into that. Now, what do I think about the saya? Well, in this price range, the saya is pretty good. It's lacquered. It's lacquered nicely. It does bruise somewhat easily, but it's not that much of a problem. Now, the fittings are brass on the handle, and I believe the handguard itself is iron. Not entirely sure, but in this price range it's usually iron on brass. Now the sword is the katana, excuse me, but the katana just means sword in that Japanese anyway. Now it's properly made actually. The only thing I don't like about 1045 is that it bends way too easily. Mine might have had a heat treatment problem, but I do see this quite often, especially in swords that have seen hard use, especially like mine. Now, I'll try to show you. Keep in mind the handle has been used to hell and back, so sorry for the sword enthusiasts who notice just how beat up it is, but this has seen 8 years of use, so it's not just been sitting there. You can see it has one Mekugi peg here and one all the way over here. Now I have actually disassembled this, and it is one solid piece of steel that goes all the way back, so it is a full tank construction, which is nice. This is the handle underneath the ito, or the wrap for those of you who are wondering, is fake race, and I'm pretty sure it's fake because of the way it is and because of the price range. It does have Mekugi pegs right here, excuse me, Menuki, which are the little figures. Some people complain that they feel them too much in the hand. Not so much for me. Keep in mind, I'm not a practitioner. Just slice up water bottles in my backyard like a mall ninja, like this, things like this. This is 2 liters or half a gallon for you Americans out there. Now, would I recommend this sword? Well, the advice I would give you, if you're looking for something that's as close to a real sword as possible, but you're on a budget, a 1045 high carbon steel sword is, and a katana especially, generally is the best you can do because of how popular the katana in particular is, which made a lot of companies try to replicate it. And as a consequence, I believe some emerge that have a really good price to quality ratio, and it's technically the cheapest sword that you can get that still functions as a sword. But you know, you still get some drawbacks, obviously, functionally. I would actually recommend a company called Ronin Katana. Excuse me, my throat is dry. And that company has also, sorry, if you look at Ronin Katana and you Google 1045 katana destruction tests, it will give you a good idea of what a katana can and cannot do. And swords, compared to other weapons, are a bit delicate because not everyone has tatami mats. Those are expensive, and water bottles on a bad cut plastic is actually quite bad. Like, I've had worse bends hitting a water bottle that's thick plastic in the wrong way than I've had in cutting into wood, because the plastic kind of makes the sword warp, and in wood it kind of just sticks into the wood because it's a hard material and doesn't really do all that much damage. So the reason I would say katanas are better for the price range is because you have a lot of options, and companies like Ronin Katana have emerged that, like I said, have just a really great price to quality ratio, and it's probably the best entry level sword that you can get that still represents a real sword that you can actually swing without the handle flying off. And also with katanas you do get a relatively high attention to detail. Like, look at this handle. European swords and twice the price range also have pretty much the same problems as a katana would have. They can still bend, they can still break. Obviously at this point it has been debunked to death, but don't expect a katana to, you know, be able to cut through anything. It's bullshit, especially in this price range. You can't really expect much from normal cutting. Like, bending is pretty much inevitable, especially if you're a beginner, because your skill level is also tied to how well this performs. But yeah, for the anything from $100 to $150, I think the only thing that you can realistically call a sword and buy it is 1045 katana from Ronin Katana or Kauravatina. I would say Master Cutlery is also good, because so far this has held up pretty well. Keep in mind this is 8 years, and the reason it's shiny though is because I pretty much polished it myself, but you can still see the deeper scratches. This took me a very long time, so yeah, you're not gonna have a proper hamon, I believe. Usually it's gonna be just sprayed on, painted on, whatever, but a genuine hamon at this price range is just not happening. Now I can go into detail a lot about katanas because they have a ton of details and things, but in the lower price ranges I believe it's better to have a katana as your first sword, because you're probably gonna fuck up your first sword, and they are an expensive hobby. And if you want more videos like this, you can like and subscribe and watch my old stuff. And in the future, for now this is it for bladed things, but in the future I have a few CO2 guns coming up, and after that I'll go into the other things that I mentioned in my community tab, like fitness and gaming, because like I said, this is about I only have a few more items in my collection. So yeah, But if you haven't watched my other stuff, like and subscribe to see more, all that stuff. Now let's get into the demonstration. Keep in mind, paper is not always the best test, but it's a somewhat good test to see how well the edge is. Now this is, hopefully you can see, standard A4 printer paper, and I will show you how the katana performs in just slicing it. Obviously the characteristics I mentioned will be as usual in the description down below, so you can check them out. Now, as you can see, it cuts paper pretty easily. Sorry, I know that was a bit awkward, but trying not to cut yourself and bash things inside your room with a sword that's still relatively long is a bit of a challenge. And thank you very much for watching.